Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill, as I do every month, to answer any questions you may have. Already did my Facebook Live about an hour ago, and so one more half hour this month to get any and all of your questions answered. I will try to get to as many of them as possible. The first one on the list is Rosaxina asking, is it possible to get too much exercise? It is indeed possible to get too much exercise, particularly if you're not used to exercising. You often, having worked in an emergency room up in Boston, we see people having heart attacks when they're shoveling snow. They're basically sedentary the whole year. All of a sudden, they're exerting themselves, and they just don't have the capacity. Their heart just doesn't have the capacity to take it. But even, endurance exercises, you can certainly overdo it in terms of impairing your immune function. I've got videos on that. People that even, running marathon, put you at risk, a higher risk for upper respiratory tract infections after the marathon, just because you've kind of, your body has a certain amount of resources. And if it puts it all towards, running that marathon, there's less left over for upkeep of your immune system. But I've got lots of videos on what you can do, in addition to, washing your hands, etc., to reduce your risk of upper respiratory tract infections, so you can get back to you can recover faster and get back to training. Rosaxina also asks says she has a weak immune system despite eating healthy. Any suggestions? Just type in immune. Well, it's probably under immune function, NutritionFacts.org, and you'll get tons of videos popping up about all the various things you can do to improve your various aspects of your immune function. We actually have different. We have an anti-cancer immunity. We have an antiviral immunity. We have kind of first-line defense kind of stuff. There's all sorts of things. There's certainly a role diet can play. Also, sleep and stress and all sorts of other lifestyle approaches. Kim T asks, can iced tea cause kidney stones? So I have a bunch of videos on kidney stones, mostly surrounding animal protein and sodium. Cutting down on those, reducing one's risk. Let me PubMed tea and kidney stones. Here, let me see if there's a meta-analysis here while we're at it. Protective associations were found with increased intake of tea, according to a meta-analysis of 15 studies with 351,000 participants. Just right out, it's not something I've run across in this meta-analysis, which was published in 2015. It doesn't suggest such is the case, but if you find out otherwise, send me the study. Maybe I'll do a video about it. The Vegan Drummer asks, in an already plant-based diet, what's the difference between buying the end-of-day cheap veg in comparison to fresh end of the day, as opposed to like pick that morning? You eat your fruits and vegetables however you can get them. Obviously, not if they're rotting or moldy, but yes, if buying cheap vegetables gets you to buy twice as many, then that would be more important than getting one picked a few hours earlier. Olivier Hoke asks, regarding my Viagra and cancer video, which I believe was yesterday's video. Fish eaters have 1/7, presumably, of the sperm concentration of non-fish eaters. However, couldn't it be the case it's due to a higher load? Got it. So that was the case with soy consumption. If you remember, I did a video. There was concern of lower sperm counts among people that eat soy, but sperm count is a concentration, it's number of sperm per milliliter, and it turns out that the ejaculates of men that eat soy is so much larger that it's just a dilution effect. They've actually, if you look at the absolute number of sperm, it's the same. It was just diluted in a larger ejaculate. So, could that be the case for fish eaters? I would presume no, just because 7 times is certainly in the soy case. It was a matter of, I forget what it was, but it wasn't 700% difference. But anytime you look at sperm count, it's important to take that into account. I certainly agree. Olivier is back asking, purchased coca leaf for a little boost. Do I know anything about coca leaves regarding health impacts? Instead of consuming cocaine, we can go for the Whole Foods variant. Coca leaves have been chewed for centuries without evidence of addiction. In terms of what are the health consequences, that is something that I don't think has been studied well, and it'd have to be something I would have to look into. But in terms of addiction potential, just because I ran across that looking at my marijuana research, that's not something to be worried about. But is it good for you? That's another question, and that's a question I don't know the answer to. Niels Nieholt asks, friend has face itching, pimples, gaps on his cheeks. Not sure what gaps means. Some vague non-Western doctor suggested fructose intolerance. To the surprise of the hospital, it was confirmed. Now he avoids fruit. Thoughts? Okay. Fructose intolerance. We all are fructose intolerant to a certain degree. What that means is the ability to absorb. Our ability to absorb fructose in our small intestine is limited, and can lead to basically osmotic diarrhea. It shouldn't have anything to do with face itching or pimples. And it's not the amount of fructose you'd ever get in fruit. We're talking about, fructose loads in, from high fructose corn syrup or table sugar sucrose when we eat largely sodas, where we can get such a high load that we can actually get some, we actually get such a high fructose load. But yeah, so staying away from fruit, I would not expect it to help with pimples. In fact, according to the Global Burden Disease Study, largest study on human risk factors to date, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the number one dietary risk factor for death in the world. What is it? Is it soda, processed meat, junk food? No, it's inadequate fruit consumption, number one dietary cause of death. Eat your fruit. Olivier is back. As a whole food plant-based eater, do I still need to brush my teeth? Yes. I didn't even finish the question, and I'm already answering. Many animals have great teeth without brushing. I'm doing an experiment. I only rinse with green tea if I ate nothing bad that day. Okay. I sorry to make light of that question. There actually was a study. I'm trying to see in what context that study. Maybe it was one of my. Well, anyway, they did this. This is interesting. So it was like a reality TV show where they made people eat go paleo for a month, and by go paleo, literally, no toothbrush, no nothing, and so living off the land. And so they had no junk food by definition, although actually they were given honey. And so of course plaque buildup on their teeth, but they actually didn't develop gingivitis, which is really interesting. The reason we care about plaque buildup is because that causes gingivitis, gum inflammation, and gum inflammation can cause periodontal disease, which is inflammation in the structures that hold on to our teeth that can lead to tooth loss. And that can have all sorts of negative effects. But what was interesting is they got all this plaque on their teeth, but their gums look perfectly fine. And the thought was because they're eating all these anti-inflammatory plant foods, they're just eating massive tons of berries and everything, suggesting that if one ate a healthy enough diet, one might not run into the same problems. But how about eat a healthy diet and brush your teeth? just to cover all bases. That would be my suggestion. But yeah, that actually was a very interesting study. It was really surprising. It's in one video coming up. I'm not exactly sure what context. Cicely asked, how much fat is too much on a vegan diet? It's not the amount of fat, it is the source of fat. Same thing with protein, same thing with carbohydrates, almost same thing with protein. You actually can OD on protein, but it's the source. So fat from walnuts, great. Fat, and so even, lots of walnuts, great. But even a little bit of, trans fats, partially hydrogenated oils would be too much, because we should ideally eat none. And same thing with, saturated animal fats and cholesterol. Ideal intake is 0. So you can, as long as you're eating whole plant foods, that's the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned. So you could eat a high-fat, whole-food, plant-based diet with nuts, seeds, avocados, or you can eat a low-fat, whole-food, plant-based diet. You should benefit either way. Niels Jolt asked, does the source of protein powder for muscle gain matter? Or is the need for protein nonsense even for amateur bodybuilders? So I would not recommend protein powders for any reason. We should get protein. It's like, like a carbohydrate powder would be like cornstarch or table sugar, or like a fat powder would just be, I don't know, a block of lard or something. Like, that's not how we get nutrients. We get nutrients from food, right? And so we should get our protein by eating, legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. Look, you can mash beans and oatmeal. You can put beans in a smoothie. Put lentil sprouts in a smoothie, not protein powder. Why would you do that? You're missing out on all the other nutrients you get in those nice, whole, healthy plant foods. It's not like most people are deficient in protein, unless, of course, you're on some extremely low-calorie diet, not eating enough food. Then you have to be careful about getting all essential nutrients. But does the source of protein powder matter? Yes, it does. And so in terms of maximal gain, but it's interesting when you look at those studies. Most of them are talk about lean body mass, but lean body mass is not muscle. People make that mistake all the time. So lean body mass, typically they use kind of this apparatus that measures kind of electrical resistance in the body. What you really want to know is, are your muscles, as a bodybuilder, what you really want to know is, are your muscles getting bigger or not? And how you do that is you do arm circumference, leg circumference. You actually measure how big, or you do CT scans or MRIs where you actually do a cross section and say, oh, here your muscle was this big, now it's this big. When you actually do that, you don't see the benefits of supplemental protein. You can increase lean body mass, but lean body mass is like your liver is inflamed. That'll increase your body mass, right? Because you have this bigger liver. But that doesn't, when people think, I want to increase my lean body mass, they're not thinking about an inflamed liver, right? But if you actually care about your muscles, what makes bigger muscles? Resistance exercise makes bigger muscles. So eat healthy. And if you want bigger muscles, then take a lot of time to move lots of weight around. But that's about it. And don't hurt yourself. All right. Olivier is back. I don't know if I should mix this up. I feel bad for all the other people who asked questions. But look, they got on here fast to ask questions. And so maybe they should be rewarded for being here on time to ask their questions. So, I'm just going to continue on down the list. And if you want to get your question answered first next month, make sure you get on early and write your question so I will make sure to get to it. Okay, so the next question on the list. As a whole food plant-based eater, why do we need soap? This is the same toothbrush person. Sure, doing surgery, handling wounds, we want to disinfect. But why are we using soap? We're using soap because so the reason why it's critically important to practice hand hygiene, which is either, it doesn't necessarily have to be soap unless there's gross contamination. It can be alcohol-based sanitizer. There's other non-alcohol-based sanitizers, but it's critically important to sanitize our hands after touching public surfaces before touching our mucous membranes, our eyes, nose, and mouth, because we can get infectious diseases. And so that's why. And you say, wait a second, we didn't evolve with soap. Yeah, we didn't evolve with antibiotics. We didn't evolve with shoes. We didn't evolve with lots of stuff. But now, through the inventive genius of these awesome human brains, we can make life safer and comfortable. We can eliminate smallpox. When we evolved, there's no smallpox vaccine. Yeah, but then we came about, and now hundreds of millions of people don't die. That's awesome. Anyway, soap is good. Long story short, soap is good. Okay. All right. Niels asks, do you think damage to the organs, such as lungs or pancreas, described as irreversible by common doctors, could actually be reversible? That's hard. It's a hard question to answer because there's lots of ways, lots of things that can damage various organs, lots of different organs, and lots of different kinds of damage. Some of which are reversible, some not. So in terms of damage to the lungs, something like COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, you actually can get improvements in lung function eating more fruits and vegetables. There's a study I did a video about where you randomize people, more fruits and vegetables, less fruits and vegetables, and you actually get improvement in lung function. And so that's really exciting. And so that's probably actually not changing the structure. So it's not like the lung tissue is going to unscar itself, but improves the function of your lung tissue. For example, opening up there's little kind of muscle, smooth muscle around the tubes in your little tubes in your lungs, and they can dilate more and actually help you breathe better. And that's the kind of thing that can be changed actually really rapidly by eating an anti-inflammatory diet. In terms of damage to the pancreas, I mean, if you have no pancreatic function like type 1 diabetes, then until some kind of stem cell research or some kind of transplant, the revolution or something, there's not much we can do for something like type 1 diabetes where pancreatic function is kaput. All right. As a whole food plant-based eater, is washing dishes with soap really necessary? Well, actually, I mean, so I did a video, or is it coming up? No, I think I already did the video where I talk about dish detergents. People that use dish detergents but then don't rinse their dishes, just leave them out to dry. That may be a problem because those detergents, just like emulsifying food additives like polysorbate 80, can actually interfere with our intestinal barrier function of our gut, potentially, can increase our risk of inflammatory bowel disease, some other issues. And so, so you want, if you're using dish detergent, make sure you rinse all that detergent off. But is washing dishes with soap really necessary? Yeah, I mean, there are, all sorts of, it's like when people say, why can't I eat moldy food? That's probably your next question, right? Well, it's because, don't I have stomach acid and stuff? Yes, you do, but mold creates these things called mycotoxins. That we don't eat moldy food because they actually produce these toxins, some of which are not destroyed by cooking. That can be a problem, so we shouldn't eat moldy food. And yes, we should clean our dishes because they can grow foodborne bacteria that can then cause a problem. And you say, well, wait a second, I live in a completely plant-based household. There are bugs that grow on, there are pathogenic bugs, even though most are, Salmonella, Campylobacter, E. coli, most of these are, intestinal pathogens. There are some that can grow on complete plant foods, can grow in a vegan kitchen. You can get food poisoning as a vegan, even if there's no chicken juice dripping on it. So we should not eat spoiled foods, rotten foods. Anyway, okay, next question. What about insects? I I can imagine they played an important role. I assume they're talking about Paleolithically, or kind of, or are we biologically programmed to be scared of them so they don't put ourselves in harm's way? Like, what about insects in terms of eating insects? I actually have videos on entomophagy, and whether or not we should be eating insects. Check it out. Next question. Some people say it's harmful and difficult. Whole food plant-based in children or infants. Obviously, infants shouldn't be eating whole food plant-based diets. They should be drinking breast milk, strictly animal-based diets in the form of human breast milk. Is that okay? So, everybody should be eating healthy. So, according to the American Dietetics Association, which is now called the Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, largest, oldest organization of nutrition professionals in the world. If you look at their latest, or actually the last few position papers on plant-based diets, they say that even purely plant-based diets are appropriate for all stages of the lifestyle, from pregnancy, childhood on through old age, and actually have benefits in terms of lowering chronic disease risk. I often, even though this is more kind of not really anecdotal, but it seems to be convince people beyond just showing them all the evidence, because they don't want to go through it all, is Dr. Benjamin Spock, right? The most esteemed pediatrician of all time, perhaps. Wrote one of the best-selling books in human history, Child and Baby Care, in the 7th edition of his famous work, the one he wrote before he died in his 90s. He recommends that all children be raised with zero exposure to meat and dairy. Why? Because he could see the childhood obesity epidemic on the rise, seeing what the grandparents were dying from, and wanted kids to be eating healthier. And if that, anyway, that's what. Yes, but of course, it's critically important. Vitamin B12 and all the other things are critically important at any age. All right, Cicely asks, do you need to worry about omega-3 ratio if you're supplementing DHA/EPA and eating flax, chia, and hemp seeds every day and exercising a lot? I don't know if exercising has anything to do with it. Can you eat nut butter? Yes, you can eat nut butters without worrying. You can eat nuts and nut butters without worrying. If you're getting a long chain, preformed long chain omega-3s in your diet, like EPA and DHA, you do not have to worry about the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Correct. If green tea, this is Orbit Games asking, if green tea is so good for you, good for our colon microbiome and several skin-related issues, and since we live in such overly clean environments, shouldn't we be bathing in green tea every day? Shouldn't we be bathing? It seems a little non sequitur, that question, but yes, green tea is good for our colon. Yes, for some skin-related issues. I'm happy with our overly clean environment. And do I think we should be bathing in green tea? I know of no research that suggests, unless you had some skin condition that would help with or anything. But I do recommend using green tea as a mouth rinse with amla, which dried Indian gooseberry powder, something that I swish my mouth out with every night. In terms, and I have videos about oral health and why that's useful. But I know no benefits that have ever been attributed to bathing in green tea, and that seems expensive and wasteful. Though delicious, anyway, maybe, in the apocalypse, when everyone fills up their, tub with water to provide a water supply, you could throw in some green tea and it'll just be a more pleasant apocalypse. How about that? Orbit Games asks another question. We destroy the microbiome on our skin. That's a good point. We actually do have a microbiome on our skin. I haven't done much videos about it, although maybe one with regards to eczema. Hair, mouth, toenails, etc. with soap. You don't destroy the microbiome with soap. You just, it's the solution to pollution is dilution. You're just diluting your bugs with soap. How do clothes add to the equation? I think Orbit Games is suggesting we bathe in green tea, then walk around naked. Perhaps they create unnatural conditions that lead to bad microbiomes. Unless unless you have skin disease associated with dysbiosis with pathogenic skin microbes like eczema, like hand eczema, then the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is hand hygiene. And that means sanitizing or washing your hands after touching public surfaces, after using the restroom. I don't want to preserve bacteria on my hands. I want to keep myself from getting infected. Yeah. All right. Niels asked, if in a ketosis state, fat is burned, and in glycolysis, the blood glucose is used for energy, how come people on a high carb, low fat, whole food plant-based diet lose so much weight? This is why I'm so excited for all my ketogenic diet videos to come out. Yes, fat is burned in a ketogenic state, but you're also eating fat, and you actually can eat more fat than you're actually burning. So, what we care about in terms of obesity is fat balance. And fat balance may be determined by less how much you burn than actually how much goes in your mouth. McDougall likes to say the fat you eat is the fat you wear. Well, if you don't eat fat, can you not gain any weight? Well, your body does have an ability to take kind of massive caloric overload, regardless of calorie source, and turn it into fat, a process called de novo lipogenesis. But it's actually really energy inefficient for the body to do that. It doesn't want to do that. And you really only see that to any large degree in these studies where they massively overfeed people sugary junk, like have people drink liters of soda every day. And you can actually get, thousands of calories in a day. At such high doses, your body starts trying to store some of it as fat, which can be bad. You can get even a few grams of fat in your liver, can affect insulin resistance, all sorts of things. So we don't want to be drinking liters of soda every day. Ideally, not drinking any soda every day. But that's one of the reasons why low-fat diets in general, doesn't have to be whole food plant-based, can facilitate weight loss, is because if you take like a plug of fat out of someone's butt and you look at it, you can tell if that person eats lots of olive oil or lots of omega-6 rich oil like safflower oil or fish oil. You can tell what their diet is because it's the fat just gets stored on your body tissues. So much of the fat we have in our body actually is not fat that we make, but it's fat that we take in our mouth. So low-fat diet may facilitate that. I have a whole chapter in my upcoming book, How Not to Diet, on fat, and I talk about all the interesting intricacies thereof. All right. 1 minute left. Orbit Games asks, I often mention that water is beverage number 1, but you also show super duper several teas. Yes, hibiscus tea, green tea, white tea. Shouldn't drinking simple water be a lost opportunity to drink tea? No. I think that's a legitimate. That's one of the reasons we choose tea, is because then you get all the water of water plus all these wonderful antioxidants. One can overdo tea in terms of fluoride exposure, in terms of potentially lead exposure, depending where the tea comes from, depending how you eat it. So I would check out my tea videos in terms of how much tea is too much. Caffeine is a problem for some people, though you can drink decaf. Any of those beverages would be good choices for proper hydration. Thank you so much, everybody. I enjoyed this. I will talk to you next month. It is back to writing the book.